Now, I would like to present our speakers. So we have Roman Bieda, who is the head of investigations at Coinfirm, and Adam Gonelli, who is principal at Adam Gonelli Law Office, and he's also a professor of law at Seton Hall Law School. Right, let's start. I'm gonna pass the mic to Roman and Adam. Please introduce yourselves, and then we're gonna pick up with the agenda.
Adam, would you like to start?
Oh, thank you very much, and thanks for having me. My name is Adam Gonelli, and I'm a lawyer in the United States. I'm also, as Stas said, a professor of law at Seton Hall Law School, where I teach blockchain and crypto law. I was fortunate enough to meet Roman and Coinfirm on a case I had pretty close to home. It started in my home state of New Jersey and has since expanded all over the world. And we'll get into the details a little bit later. But chasing criminals and bad guys around the blockchain is challenging, interesting. And today we'll talk a little bit about what Coinfirm does and what's possible from a legal perspective.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for being with us today. Yeah, I'm head of fraud investigations at Coinfirm. For the past few years, I focused on blockchain investigations only. Before that, my background is forensic from PwC. So I was tracing, let's say, more traditional incidents and cases. We've traced thousands of blockchain investigations, billions of US dollars in various cryptocurrencies. We have a successful history on many cases. Some of them are already in the media, one even in the book. So at Coinfirm, we've been engaged in the most infamous cases in blockchain sphere, like Quadriga case, the DAO hack, for the success stories of ours. Please refer to the media, or at the end on this webinar, we'll maybe have time to cover a few. Maybe what we won't cover today, well, the plan for this webinar is to provide a pure knowledge on what to do if you happen to have a security incident involving cryptocurrency theft. But obviously there are certain steps that needs to be taken. We won't cover everything. Steps like having and following your internal security policy, filing a case to law enforcement, security audit. This all has to be done, and to be honest, this all has to be done simultaneously, right? And one of this part of this things that should be done is actually tracing cryptocurrency, trying to freeze it as soon as possible. As you know, crypto can flow through blockchain very fast, and therefore you need to act as soon as possible. And because of that, because of these few things you have to do simultaneously, it's good, to have the knowledge what can be done on cryptocurrency tracking, what you should know, what you should prepare for forensic companies and for your legal representative. So when something happens, you're prepared. So without further ado, let me share the screen, and maybe let's lighten it up a little bit. Yeah. First, how Coinfirm can help. So quick agenda on what Coinfirm, forensic company as Coinfirm, can provide to you. First, rapid response service. So it's kind of insurance. Even before any security incidents happens, you can purchase such service from Coinfirm, so you're prepared for any kind of crypto theft that may happen. Tracking stolen assets in a real time. We have the tool. Created internally. We have the methodologies created internally at Coinfirm for tracing cryptocurrency. We can trace it in the real time. We can freeze it. We did that in the past. These methodologies are proven in courts in many jurisdictions all around the world, as accepted by court, and well, methodologies that proved itself on successful crypto assets recovery cases. We can de-anonymize even most advanced cryptocurrency mixers. So it is believed in the industry that chip mixers like Tornado Cash or chip mixer, that these mixers are untraceable. And we proved on many cases that we can actually trace through such mixers. Forensic reports. So this is end-to-end report that Coinfirm may provide on cryptocurrency investigation. We specialize in converting this technical knowledge, technical tracing, technical evidence that we support, that we provide, with the support of written explanation, visualizations that that are easy understandable by non-technical person, by your legal representative, by court, by law enforcement that may not be trained in blockchain. And last but not least, subject matter expert support. So throughout the investigation, then throughout the legal process, we can support you. Our team of blockchain forensic experts can support you, can support your legal representative, and we can also support you during the litigation. Personally, I was expert witness on many blockchain litigations involving blockchain cryptocurrency theft, including federal court in the US. So how does the investigation looks like? Quickly about the process. So first, optional service, which is rapid response service available at Coinfirm. This is basically a kind of insurance for you that will provide you even up to 24/7 availability of our forensic team. And in case of any incidents that involves cryptocurrency theft, we are here, we are available for you to take over the case immediately with such a service. So we can basically start to trace with a few clicks, we can start to trace stolen crypto, and we can trace any movement in the real time using our tool. About that later. And yeah, with the goal to freeze it. But if you don't have a rapid response service, of course, we are here, we are available for you, and all we need to start the investigation is just a quick introductory meeting. So for that meeting, we can jump right after we get the notification from you that you would like to have such a meeting. And all we need to start the investigation is the list of addresses or the list of transactions in which the cryptocurrency was moved from your wallet to the perpetrator wallet. And that's it. Actually, of course, we signed the NDA, we signed the contract, and yeah, the tracing again with a few clicks can be started. And then we move to the investigation part, which is first live tracing of the funds. The funds are on the move. Our tool, investigator, detects the movements of the coins and recalculate the evidence file, automatically notifies us, notifies the law enforcement connected to your investigation, notifies your legal representative connected to your investigation immediately through email that the funds are on the move, and provides the evidence file automatically. So you can just, or your legal representative can just copy and paste deposit transactions to the cryptocurrency services that received stolen funds. Forensic reports throughout the process of tracing. If there's a major update on the movement of the coins that requires submitting a file to the court, we can update the report, right? So the evidence file that is created automatically, we support with the written report, with the visualizations and everything that is needed to prove actually that these are indeed your coins traced to the certain destination. And yeah, very important, the mixing. Of course, many criminals, most of the criminals will try to obfuscate the tracing of the crypto through anonymization services. And those services are believed to be untraceable. But as I mentioned already, even the most advanced ones like Tornado Cash or Chip Mixer that currently are sanctioned and actually shut down recently, but there will be, the new will come, we're sure about that. We can trace through them using our methodology. And we did in the past many times. And then what happens when we trace the funds? Well, at some point, we spot that funds are deposited to identified owners. So destination owner detected, right? So a hacker is moving the funds from one private wallet to another, dissipates the funds, trying to obfuscate the tracing. At some point, perpetrator would like to cash, most probably would like to cash into fiat currency using cryptocurrency services, cryptocurrency exchanges. And in that case, we detect that automatically in the real time. We detect such deposit. And in that case, we are notified, and asset protection notice can be sent to such services. More on that probably we'll hear from Adam. And as I mentioned, we can support the process then as witness experts in court. Very quickly about the tool. We're here to talk about the process, but I'd like to just mention about Investigator, why it is, well, the most advanced tool for tracing cryptocurrency, why we're using that to trace stolen funds. First, it enables tracking cryptocurrency through live mode. So if there's any movement in the new blockchain block, Investigator detects that movement, instantly notifies us, so there is no need to manually review if there were any movements of the stolen coins. Evidence file is created fully automatically, so there is no need for an individual to you know, for the forensic investigator to create the evidence. It is created automatically, and this evidence awaits on the platform for us. Whenever funds are on the move, we log in and we see already the updated evidence, so we can just copy paste it and send to the law enforcement, to legal team, to the cryptocurrency service that received the stolen coins. Investigator enables tracing through mixers, and last but not least, the methodologies created at Coinfirm to trace the funds. We focus on tracing the assets and not the clusters. So there are tools on the market that enable graphical tracing of the clusters connections, cluster addresses clusters in cluster A connected to cluster B. But this methodology does not focus on tracing of your coins. It focuses on tracing some connections between possible parties involved in the theft. On the other hand, our methodology is focused on forensic accounting methods, and we trace specifically your coins. So what we can prove in court is that those are the stolen coins. This destination is the destination for your stolen coins, despite these coins were mixed with coins from other victims, with coins from other sources, despite coin join transactions were used, and so on. So that's quickly about the tool, and actually heading to you, Adam, now. So let me stop sharing and give you the floor.
Thank you. Let me give a practical example of some of the tools Roman was talking about. One of my first cases with crypto fraud, I'm not allowed to talk about the specific details, but let me give you a general outline. The client was a technically sophisticated person who, to his great embarrassment, asked for help from someone on actually a technical problem, shared his screen with someone that he met and thought was reputable. That person, of course, then immediately accessed his drive, got the seed phrases, broke into 2 of his wallets, and then just emptied his wallets of all their digital assets. It's quite a lot of money. To add insult to injury, the client had a couple of these smart contracts which were lodged in the wallets and could not be moved. They were not portable. And to this day, they keep generating income And there's a race between, well, us and the fraudsters to grab the tokens that are generated by the smart contracts. So this has been an ongoing problem for a long time. So when we say the race is on, it's this specific part, about grabbing tokens that are still being generated, but also just to track the assets across the blockchain. As Roman mentioned, these things are very time sensitive. They move a lot faster than bank transfers, obviously. So speed is very important. Now, as many of you know, court systems anywhere in the world aren't really designed for speed. They're designed for careful analysis of evidence to make sure everyone has their say. They're designed for due process. But when we move, we have to move very, very quickly. And once the assets are stolen, you're off to the races. What we do is try to figure out, at some point, the assets will intersect with a public platform. And that could be an exchange, it could be a casino, it could be a marketplace, but at some point, the assets and the thieves are going to intersect with a platform somewhere. We have to identify that, and with Coinfirm's help, we track where the assets go, and as soon as they intersect with someone we can actually talk to, we try to get information out of those entities as to where the coins came from, maybe the identity of the thieves, and we start building a case. We also use IP addresses where possible to track the location of the thieves. So when the thieves connect to a marketplace, some of the marketplaces, some of the exchanges will keep IP address information. Some of them have KYC information, some of them don't. And by getting that information, you can start to build a case to find out where the assets are and who's moving them around. Now, as I said before, courts are really not designed to handle things with this speed, because at this point, even if we know where the assets are, we don't know who the thieves are. We don't have their identities, and the assets may be scattered all over. So you have to go into court very, very quickly using expedited proceedings, which exist in all jurisdictions, but they're not easy. And you have to go to a judge and say, well, we would like your permission to get information out of this exchange or this casino who has done nothing wrong. We just need the information for our client. And no, we have no idea who the thief is and who we're going to be suing. Also, we have to do it immediately because time is of the essence. So please sign this right now. As you can imagine, this becomes a challenge in any jurisdiction to make the case that, number one, we don't even know who we're moving against. Number two, we have to inconvenience these third parties who haven't done anything wrong and get them to disgorge information under a variety of privacy laws across the world. And third, you have to do it right now. So that's the challenge we face right at the outset. If you're successful, then Coinfirm will keep going and track the assets all over the blockchain. As Roman said, they'll go into blenders, they'll go into mixers, they get converted into different types of digital currency, they get moved around different wallets very quickly, they get split up. And one of the ways I was really impressed when I first started working with Coinfirm is the way they've taken traditional accounting practices, first in, first out, last in, first out, pro-rata distribution, which were used in the banking industry for many years in forensic accounting, and they've applied those to the blockchain. This is important not just because it works, but because it's something that the layperson, judges, lawyers, clients can start to understand, because it sort of brings you back to the world of traditional accounting. And this is something that's more commonly known. And it helps you develop your case when you can tie all the complicated terminology of crypto and blockchain and bring it back to something that's more familiar and that's been around for a while. Now, there's a couple of things when you bring a case you have to consider. The first thing is, well, where are we going to bring a case? and different jurisdictions have different jurisdictional rules. Here in the United States, we need to have either the plaintiff, meaning the client, the person who's been defrauded. If we've identified the defendant, which usually we haven't, but if we have and they're in the United States, we can do it here. Or alternatively, we can sometimes use one of the exchanges or one of the casinos as a jurisdictional hook to bring a case in the United States. If not, then we have to go to other jurisdictions. Now, as I said, each jurisdiction has its own separate process for expedited proceedings, which is always possible. But once you decide where to bring the case, you have to decide what laws you're going to use. Now, fraud and theft have been crimes for thousands of years. Everybody understands them, and lawyers, judges, everyone understands the concept that someone had their assets stolen. But there's a little more sophisticated set of laws that you can use depending on the type of fraud. Now, a lot of the pig butchering cases where someone is convinced online to just put their crypto into somewhere with a fraudster, that's one thing. But in a lot of these cases, there's been access to the victim's computer or the victim's information systems, either through exploitation of a bug or through just outright hacking. In the United States, we've had this hacking law since 1986. It's called the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. There were a series in the 80s of high-profile hacks into government computers, so this law was passed. And at the time, it was just a criminal law, and it just covered government computers and financial institutions. Those were the types of things that were being attacked, the Defense Department, big banks, and so forth. So this is how it started. And it's kind of funny, if you look at the statute, it says, we mean computers. It doesn't cover typewriters or handheld calculators, because you can see how old this law is. But then it evolved. It's been amended 8 or 9 times. And now individual people can use it to sue entities or organizations that have hacked them. And it's been expanded further and further by courts. Some people say it's gone further than it ever intended to, but it now covers just about anything connected to the internet. And this is a very powerful tool if your computer or your information systems have been the victim of unauthorized access. You can use this. It's a federal statute. It covers, which is generally very powerful. And it has a lot of remedies that you're not going to get in other places and other jurisdictions. So if possible, we like to bring the case using this law. Now, the EU also has a similar law. It's not as old. It's called Directive 2013/40, which is kind of similar in that the goals are the same. It tries to, it's a law that people can use if they've actually been hacked. Now, when you decide that you want to bring a case, obviously speed is really important. So you have to make these decisions very quickly. Where are we going to file a case? What laws are we going to use? And specifically, what are we going to ask for? The first thing I like to do, if we can identify the assets or the person or the thief, which is less common, is I like to go in and ask the judge to freeze the assets in place. And this is more difficult with some currencies than others, and more difficult in some jurisdictions than others. But if possible, we like to just freeze the assets and then sort everything out later. What that means is, instead of finding out tomorrow that all your crypto assets have been scattered all over and beyond the reach of any court and very difficult to trace, and in smaller and smaller amounts over greater and greater number of wallets, we like to say, all right, you know what, just freeze everything where it is, and then we'll sort it out before all this disappears. It's a very, very useful tool. It's very difficult to get because, as you can imagine, courts don't like to order someone who hasn't yet been convicted of anything to freeze their assets, but it can be done. And that's something we like to do depending on the jurisdiction we're in. When we decide, when we get a freeze, after that, It's just a question of building a case. We use Coinfirm. We get expert reports from them to show, in the language of a layperson, where these assets have gone, and trace and try to prove that it's the same person moving these assets wallet to wallet, and then to identify the fraudster. And then you build a traditional case in court and try to get people their assets back. It's quite a challenge. We've had some success with it. And the keys are, though, you have to make these decisions very quickly, and you have to have a reputable partner who can provide an expert report that you can trust and can operate very, very quickly. I will tell you, there are lots of private investigation firms. I've worked with many of them, and many of them are great, but they just don't understand crypto. They don't understand the speed. They don't understand the fact that it's completely without borders. They don't understand mixers. And it's very, very difficult to train somebody, to get them up to speed, to do what you need to do to build a court case. With Coinfirm, obviously, you don't have to worry about, because this is what they do. Anyway, I'd like to be happy to take questions if anyone has any.
Well, while we wait for the questions, I have a question, right? So if one entity is hacked, right, and they trace the funds, they see that like let's say exchange A has been hacked, the funds are moving now, and they see them in different places. So should they can they reach out directly to those other entities, like asking assets to be frozen, or it should be done through like a mediator, like a lawyer, by a third party, or it can be done directly?
Well, in theory, you can always contact an organization or an exchange or casino and ask them to do something, but without some sort of a court order, an expert report, or the beginning of a criminal investigation by civil authorities or criminal authorities, they're unlikely to cooperate. Remember, you're asking these organizations either to freeze one of their customers' property, which no company likes to do, or to divulge information about the identity and financial transactions of someone. And that implicates different privacy laws in different parts of the world, but very, very difficult to do without some sort of a court order or other official government action to get them to do it.
Got it. Right. Okay. Let me check. All right. So the question is like how. What are like the kind of the success rate, right, with asset freeze request and recovery from exchanges in the past, like from your experience?
Well, if the currency is at an exchange account, the success rate is very, very high. Then you get to show exactly where the assets are, and they're in a place from which you can recover them, as opposed to a DeFi wallet, a private wallet, where you may have identified the assets, but there's simply no way to get to it, even if you're successful in court. So it varies. It depends on the type of currency. We have a lot more success with Tether and US dollar coins than you do with other types of currency because of the technology underlying those two assets. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, are much easier to trace and recover, and courts generally and lay people understand, well, yeah, that's a stolen asset, as if someone stole a valuable piece of art. People understand that, and you can usually find them. But the challenge is if the assets, in whatever form they are sitting in a DeFi wallet, a private wallet somewhere, you have to find out who owns that wallet in order to get access to it. And that's a whole other process.
What I may add to this is, as we stressed a few times, the time is of the essence, right? So sometimes use our channels to, kindly request, at least for a few days, freeze of the assets we traced, because we can prove that those are stolen assets. And in that situation, many cryptocurrency services actually are willing to cooperate. The big, well-known cryptocurrency services do not want actually to launder these funds, so they give us at least these few days then to act, let's say, in a more official way. So basically, the process then is, I quickly use my channels to request the temporary freeze, and then Adam can take from here and submit an official request.
All right, so we have one last question. How is the CFAA applicable in the rest of the world, especially South Africa, and is it applicable?
No, it's not. Unless you have a U.S. jurisdictional hook, we call them, it's not applicable. Federal law covers the entire United States, unlike state laws, which are state-specific. But unless there's either the plaintiff or the defendant or the actual servers where the currency is held are located in the United States, it's tough to get the CFAA applied to it. And there's a whole body of law called choice of law, which means even if you bring suit in the United States, if someone shows up to challenge it, they could say, well, I'm in South Africa, so South African law should apply to this transaction. And then a court has to make a determination as to which law applies.
Understood. All right, we have one more question. Like after that, we're gonna wrap up, but let's check this one out. How can we prove that each and every movement from wallet, just checking if I'm muted or not, sorry. How can we prove that each and every movement from wallet to wallet was made by the same person, even if this person divides the amount of the assets into multiple different amounts, they do not correlate? Is this?
Well,
oh, go ahead, Roman.
Well, in terms of tracing, in some cases we can prove it, in some cases we cannot. In some cases we can collect some fingerprints. As I mentioned a few times, we can even prove it sometimes, despite mixers or coin joins were used. In some cases we cannot, but then we trace the stolen coins based on the assumption that these are still the same stolen coins. So let's say if the perpetrator sold the stolen bitcoins to somebody for cash, we cannot see that from the blockchain, right? We see movement of stolen bitcoins from wallet A to wallet B, and we don't know that it was sold to another person, but then we still trace the same stolen bitcoins, and then we trace the person that bought these bitcoins for cash from the perpetrator. So we're still on the track of the stolen coins, and we still have an even chance to get information from this second person about the perpetrator, right? But in many cases, there are indicators that we can spot from blockchain that we are still tracing the perpetrator or a person related to the perpetrator. We can spot that this wallet belongs to an individual, not the cryptocurrency service, for example. So we can say that we're still tracing individuals moving funds from wallet A to wallet B to wallet C, and not moving the funds, contributing the funds to the service, from which it's harder to trace from blockchain what happened further. The funds without knowledge, internal knowledge of this service.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, Roman. Right, yeah. So I think we're gonna wrap this up, guys. Thank you so much, Roman, Adam. It was like for me specifically extremely interesting to go into this. If you have any kind of closing remarks, please tell us.
Well, I would just emphasize most lawyers in many jurisdictions all over the world, and frankly, as a profession, we're not used to moving really, really quickly. Generally, the law and the legal systems are not designed to do that. So it takes a little bit of an adjustment to do these cases. and speed matters in most of them.
Exactly. So I'd like to first thank Adam again for joining us today. And as we highlighted a few times, speed and if we act fast, then freezing the coins that really increases the chances of the successful recovery a lot. However, another beauty about blockchain is we all have access to it, and it is available. And once something is done, the history is there. So we have also we can also resolve the case that happened 10 years ago. So that's the beauty of blockchain, that it is still possible and doable. However, the faster we act, the better, because the chances are much higher then.
Great. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone who joined. I hope you had a good time. So yeah, see you next time. Please, reach out to us if you have any, further questions. Yeah, like cases. I hope you don't, but if you do, you know who to talk to. All right. Thank you so much, Roman, Adam.
Thank you.
I'm sure we're gonna see you again.